So we start right now with new reporting that Sunday's rally at Madison Square Garden was not the first time comedian Tony Hinchcliffe made a racist joke about Puerto Rico. That wasn't something off the cuff. It was planned. According to an NBC News producer and 3 other people who happened to be in the audience, Hinchcliffe workshopped the material Saturday night at a New York City comedy club. They say the joke about Puerto Rico being a floating pile of garbage did not draw laughs, just a handful of awkward chuckles. Hinchcliffe told the audience multiple times during his routine that he would get a better reaction, quote, tomorrow at the rally. J.D. Vance, who spoke at Sunday's rally, was asked about it last night while campaigning in Wisconsin.
I haven't seen the joke. Maybe it's a stupid racist joke, as you said. Maybe it's not. I haven't seen it. I'm not going to comment on the specifics of the joke. But I think that we have to stop getting so offended at every little thing in the United States of America. I'm so over it.
So, Claire McCaskill, just on J.D. Vance's reaction there, first of all, it is palpable that members of the Puerto Rican American community are extremely upset about this joke. I have not met one person, Puerto Rican American or from any other area in the country, who thought that joke was funny and did not find it to be painful and disturbing. So what do you make of J.D. Vance's, I didn't see it, and hey, come on, chill out, guys, take a joke?
Well, he's learned to lie as easily as Trump does, because clearly he's seen it. I mean, you couldn't be in America and even halfway paying attention to the election. I figure he is, right? He's on the ballot. So he lied about that. You know, and the thing that's really interesting about this, Mika, we've spent a lot of time over the last decade talking about the failure of Republican leadership to address who Trump is and how he has behaved. But let's think about this for a minute. This joke is made, and then hours afterwards, the Trump campaign says that they distance themselves. Not Trump. He's never said a word about it. They distance themselves from the joke. And then finally, Republicans speak out. But guess which Republicans speak out? Those that have a connection to Puerto Rico. The elected officials in Florida that have family in Puerto Rico or are from Puerto Rico. And remember, a lot of Trump supporters don't know this. Everyone in Puerto Rico is American, guys. They are Americans. These are the ones that Stephen Miller is referring to, Americans. But what about the rest of the Republican Party? What, they think it's okay to denigrate Puerto Ricans like this? Where are the leaders? Where's Mike Johnson, the guy that supposedly reads the Bible about the least among us and taking care of your fellow man and loving others like you want to love yourself and treating others like you want to be treated? Where are the leaders of the Republican Party on this issue of this awful way that Puerto Rico was denigrated by the Trump campaign on Sunday? It's interesting to me the only ones who've spoken out have some connection to Puerto Rico.
Yeah, you know, Willie, following up on the question about where these so-called evangelical leaders who say they are guided by the Bible, you look at the story of the Good Samaritan. And the story of the Good Samaritan follows Jesus being asked when he says, love your neighbor as yourself. They say, well, who's my neighbor? And Jesus talks to an audience, somebody who's considered an enemy, the Samaritan. And shows how the Samaritan helps one who is not, who is another and who is a despised other. And Jesus said, that is who your neighbor is. Your neighbor is a person that you even don't like, that you consider to be your enemy. That is who you are to help. And unfortunately, when Mike Johnson and other people who claim to be guided by the Bible lie for Donald Trump, brush these things aside for Donald Trump, when J.D. Vance, who said no Christian should vote for Donald Trump in 2016, the same year he said he thought maybe that he was America's Hitler or something like that. I don't know exactly how they deal with the cognitive dissonance of that, saying one thing one day and the next day forgiving for giving racist jokes about Puerto Ricans, about black people, about all the, quote, others.
Yeah, and we see it time and again, as you've said many times over the last several years. Many evangelicals have been detached from the word of the Bible and are seeking power, proximity to it in Donald Trump, and whatever he does, they look the other way because they view him as the anointed one, or at least the one who will get them what they want in terms of politics and power. And Peter Baker, as we look at those comments from Madison Square Garden, they knew who they were booking in this comedian. You can go back and look at his past, what kind of comic he is, insulting people and everything else. This is the culture, and we heard it in J.D. Vance's response, that they're kind of running on in a way, which is you don't have to apologize for stuff anymore. Political correctness is out the door. Your hands aren't tied. You can say the thing you have been told you're not allowed to say anymore. This is what it's going to be like under Donald Trump. And then there's, of course, the electoral aspect of this. There are nearly 500,000 Puerto Rican Americans in the state of Pennsylvania alone. Think about that. In the state that each candidate desperately needs to win, nearly 500,000 Puerto Rican Americans live there now and have votes.
Yeah, I think you're right, absolutely, William. I think the point is, I was at Madison Square Garden on Sunday, and what struck me was that this comic obviously was the more extreme version of what was happening. But he's the only one whose comments were disavowed by the Trump campaign, and there were plenty of other people who speaking that evening, who said things that would normally be out of bounds in politics, using all kinds of profanity, insulting Palestinians, insulting people transgender, insulting Democrats, insulting, chanting tampon Tim about Tim Walz, and so on and so forth. And you're right to say that I think that this is actually the message. The message is we are liberated from the shackles of wokedom, of political correctness. Tucker Carlson basically said that from the stage. He says that Donald Trump has liberated us from having to tell the lies. That was his phrase. And I think by the lies, what he means are that, that we are basically nice to other people, that we don't, in fact, that we are not allowed to denigrate other people on the basis of their, ethnicity, nationality, religion, all those things. And you heard it time and time again from speaker after speaker. That was really striking. One thing, though, that's really important to remember about Puerto Rico specifically is there's a history here. Donald Trump was president for 4 years, which we often seem to forget. And while he was president, he was the one who actually went to war in some ways with Puerto Rico after 2 hurricanes. He was so mad at the mayor of San Juan for not showing proper deference that he wanted to pull aid from hurricane victims. He talked in private with his aides about selling Puerto Rico. Didn't even know, by the way, that Puerto Rico is an American, it's part of the United States, Mika, to your point, that they are Americans. He, in fact, talked about trading Puerto Rico for Greenland. Let's get some of those people from Greenland who are not, well, let's say, Puerto Ricans. And all of that is history here when we talk about the Trump campaign's point of view when it comes to Puerto Rico.
And if I could add to your list, the infamous moment when he was throwing paper towels at victims of a natural disaster, throwing them, chucking them.